Bill and Hillary Clinton are taking it all public on Donald Trump. Hillary Clinton released a tweet earlier today saying that if the Republicans want to play games and make them testify under oath, they should have to do it in public. Bill and Hillary Clinton both want to go out there in public and speak about their experience so Republicans are not using them as toys anymore. Now, Karoline Leavitt, Trump's press secretary, was then asked in a press conference, hey, why is President Trump so bothered that they are investigating Bill Clinton? And the reason is because Democrats will have maximum leverage over Donald Trump if Bill and Hillary Clinton continue making these quite clever moves. Let's just rewind to what Hillary Clinton tweeted out earlier today. So for months and months, Chairman James Comer of the Oversight Committee, a Republican, has essentially been toying around and playing games with Hillary Clinton, former Secretary of State, and Bill Clinton, the former President of the United States. Now, none of this is a defense of them or their names being listed in the Epstein files. That is not what I'm doing here, but I am saying that Hillary is now outmaneuvering James Comer. She's still got it. She's outmaneuvering Donald Trump in creating a few precedents at once. Number one, that former presidents will testify. They should testify about Epstein, but that means Trump has to as well. Number two, if they do this publicly, that allows them to say everything they can, tell all, without James Comer then selectively hiding things that are bad for Republicans. Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton tweeted out earlier today, quote, "For 6 months, we engaged at Republicans on the Oversight Committee in good faith. We told them what we know, under oath. They ignored all of it. They moved the goalposts and turned accountability into an exercise in distraction. Let's stop the games. If you want this fight, James Comer, the Republican chair of the Oversight Committee, let's have it in public. You love to talk about transparency. There is nothing more transparent than a public hearing, cameras on, we will be there." This flips the script on Republican James Comer, who hasn't been levying a serious investigation to get to the bottom of things. He's been trying to distract the American people by keeping the Clinton name in the spotlight and repeatedly investigating them and subpoenaing them. And again, I'm not here to defend the Clintons. Just because Bill Clinton was a Democratic president like 30 years ago and I now identify as a Democrat doesn't mean I'm going to defend him. I don't give a shit. You can investigate them if you want, but don't do it as a distraction to distract away from your daddy, President Trump. Do it for the right reasons and investigate everybody equally. That is all that we are asking for, and that is the leverage that Democrats are now gaining. Joshua Reed Equal points out, there's nothing congressional Republicans would love more than dragging Hillary Clinton under oath in a public hearing, right? It would be pure red meat for the base. Republicans would love to do that. So if this doesn't move forward, if James Comer doesn't do that, it won't be because the House Republicans don't want to or they lack the will. It'll be because Hillary has something that genuinely scares Trump and Trump tells them not to go forward with this. Based on Trump's recent remarks, including now switching up over the Clintons, it seems like he'll spend whatever political capital he has left to make sure that Republicans do not go after the Clintons. Take a listen to this video of Donald Trump in an interview yesterday, all of a sudden switching up about Bill Clinton.
It bothers me that somebody's going after Bill Clinton. See, I like Bill Clinton. I still like Bill Clinton.
What do you like about him?
I liked his behavior toward me. I thought he got me, he understood me.
For the past 2 years, Trump has been using Bill Clinton as a scapegoat for the Epstein files, but now that Republicans flew too close to the sun, just like Icarus, it seems like they are getting burned by Hillary Clinton, of all people, their number one enemy. Now, enter Karoline Leavitt, who held a press conference just today. And by the way, if you appreciate the videos we cook up on the Adam Mockler channel with our team of, young people that are pushing towards pro-democracy truths, make sure you drop a like to boost this message and make sure you subscribe below. Enter Karoline Leavitt. She gets asked during her press conference a lot of things that we're going to walk through, but one of the questions that she gets asked is, why is President Trump so bothered that they are investigating Epstein? Now, the answer to us is obvious. It's because Hillary Clinton has gained leverage. As Brett Meiselas points out, this is the biggest tell ever, that they are all of a sudden in love with Bill Clinton. Karoline Leavitt says,
Thank you so much, Karoline. Yesterday, President Trump, in the NBC interview, said that it bothers me that somebody is going after Bill Clinton. That somebody is the House Oversight Chairman, James Comer, a Republican. Why is the president bothered that they're investigating Bill Clinton and his Epstein ties?
Look, I think that the president has respect for the former president of the United States, Bill Clinton. He said yesterday himself they've shared a good relationship, and that's what he was reiterating in that NBC interview.
Where is the sudden respect coming from Trump to the former president of the United States? I mean, in terms of former presidents, he was disrespectful to Jimmy Carter after he passed. He said that Obama wasn't even born in America, and when it comes to Bill Clinton, he only mentions him in regards to the Epstein files only when it's convenient for him. Karoline Leavitt's press conference then continues to spin out of control. Check this out. She's asked, is Trump suggesting the federal government rig elections or count votes in elections? And her answer is a complete lie and misrepresentation of what the SAVE Act is.
At one point in the interview, the president said that he believes states are accumulating the votes for who wins the election. He says if they, meaning the states, can't do it honestly and can't be done properly and timely, then something else has to happen. What did he mean by that? Is he suggesting that the federal government count votes in elections?
What the president is suggesting, and I just spoke to him about this, is that Republicans and Democrats in Congress should pass the Save America Act. This piece of legislation is going to ensure that states are abiding by federal election law by removing non-citizens from their voter rolls. In addition, the Save America Act will require voter ID to vote, and it will require proof of citizenship to register to vote. These are very common sense policies and proposals that 89% of our country agree with. So that's what the president is talking about again.
See, voter ID laws are actually fine on their face. Ideally, you pair voter ID laws with easier access to identification so that people don't have extra barriers in order to go exercise their right to vote. What the SAVE Act is not a voter ID bill. It is a bill that changes how you register to vote, and it increases barriers that make it harder for certain communities to register. And by certain communities, we don't mean undocumented immigrants. I mean old people, super young people that are at college, may not have the proper identification. Ideally, you should have the least barrier of access in order to register and in order to vote in a lawful way. The big reason why voter ID was controversial for a while is because a few years ago in North Carolina, there was a case where a Republican legislature targeted black communities with quote-unquote surgical precision to lock them out of voting. The ruling from the North Carolina Supreme Court came down and said that Republicans in their state Congress were targeting black people with surgical precision by cutting off access to certain sorts of identification than making sure that you needed those identifications to vote. So if you make it broad and accessible, that is fine, but I don't have trust in Tulsi Gabbard, Donald Trump, and Stephen Miller to do that. NBC even then butts in and says, hey, this doesn't even do anything about who counts votes.
So the SAVE Act doesn't say anything about who counts votes, which has always been a state, a local, a county function. Why does he keep talking about somebody else, presumably the federal government, counting votes?
Because the SAVE Act directs states to remove non-citizens from their voter rolls. And we know in states across the country, the president is right to point this out. In states like California or in places like New York City, non-citizens are allowed to vote in state and local elections. And the federal government should absolutely do away with that. I don't think a single person in this room...
That's not the question that was asked. She was asked why Trump keeps talking about the federal government absorbing the ability to count votes, not passing legislation that bans certain people from voting like non-citizens. By the way, elections are up to the states, so states can do what they want without the federal government meddling either way, but she completely dodges the question. You know what is incredibly absurd and annoying about these press conferences is as journalists are lobbing genuine, actually good questions over to Karoline Leavitt, you always have some Fox News or some Newsmax D-bag who then asks her some fun question right in the middle of the serious press conference. So right when they're talking about voter fraud and she's calling Antifa terrorists throughout it, Peter Ducey jumps in and says,
Just one more about this weekend. At the Mar-a-Lago Super Bowl party, after the first two quarters, are the TVs going to be on the halftime show with Bad Bunny or the halftime show with Kid Rock?
I think the president would much prefer a Kid Rock performance over Bad Bunny. I must say that. Jennifer.
What an awful answer. One is an iconic global superstar across the world, and the other is Kid Rock. Are we serious here? In this next clip, she begins to hold up a photo of someone she says is an Antifa member. Lord have mercy, can we spend some time holding up photos of the Epstein files, not whoever this Antifa allegedly Antifa guy is?
And as for the left-wing agitators who have been illegally obstructing ICE's immigration efforts, we are not letting that behavior go unnoticed or unpunished. In fact, just today, the Department of Homeland Security arrested this individual. He is a self-proclaimed Antifa member who has been threatening, doxing, harassing ICE. He called for the murder of federal law enforcement officers. He encouraged bloodshed in the streets of Minnesota. He proudly acclaimed affiliation with the domestic terrorist organization Antifa. And the Department of Justice, thanks to the great work of HSI and the FBI,
I mean, from my understanding, Antifa isn't even some centralized organization like the Proud Boys or like the many other far-right militias. People just claim that they're Antifa because they think it vaguely means anti-fascist. Some people probably don't know what it means. Some people probably are pretty radical and claim, I am an Antifa radical. But there's probably a wide, diverse set of people who claim this without some centralized leading figure or organization. So if some random guy on Facebook is posting about how he hates ICE and calls himself Antifa, and then the next day he's posted on imagine your uncle is posting about how much he hates ICE, and the next day Karoline Leavitt is holding up a photo of him after he worked out looking a little bit scary. Like, did this guy ever actually hurt anybody, or is she just targeting him and putting him on blast? I don't know. I'm going to leave it there. Drop a like, subscribe. I'm going to see you all in the next video, and peace out.